StrayAllDay.com.
Mental toughness is an identity, not a skill. Now, skills are very important here, especially in a world that is literally called work on your game. And you need some skills in order to have game. Game is your ability to use those skills to produce results. And the skills are practiced abilities that allow you to get things done, whatever it is you're trying to get done. I'm telling you here today that mental toughness is an identity. It's a way of being. It is not a skill. Skill is something that is exercise. It's something that you do. So I define mental toughness as your willingness and ability to continue showing up, doing the work, and putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to occur. In other words, when success is late to the party, can you keep showing up? And today I'm going to help you understand that mental toughness is something that is codified into your DNA. It is part of you, the person, not something that you do as an activity. Those are two different things. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is mental toughness is an identity, not a skill. As I just explained, skills are something that you do. Identity is who you are. A skill is something that you exercise when you need it. For example, if you go to a basketball court, your ability to shoot the basketball is a skill that you can execute once you get on the basketball court. Or driving a car when you're behind the wheel of your vehicle. Being mentally tough, which means having resilience in the face of difficulty, is not something that you pick and choose to do at different times. Being mentally tough is just a way that you walk around. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be at the park with your child. You could be at the mall buying a new pair of sneakers. Mental toughness is just something that is always with you. Doesn't matter what's happening, even if you're not dealing with a difficult situation. Mental toughness is just a way of living. It's a way of Again, a way of existing. And it encompasses what you do also, not only when things are not working in your favor, but also what you do when things are working in your favor. Because being mentally tough is about continuing to show up with the same energy and commitment level, even when everything is working. And of course, even when everything is not working. And mental toughness on the positive side meaning things are working. This is about your ability to stay focused and stay locked in, not allow yourself to grow complacent simply because everything has been working. This is one of the reasons why I continually will tell you that one of the biggest challenges of mental toughness is, of course, you got the challenge everyone knows about when things are not working and it seems like you're failing, losing, or on your way to failing or losing. Yes, you got to be mentally tough in those times. That's what the kind of mental toughness that most people are talking about when they use the phrase mental toughness. But a bigger challenge to your mental toughness is when everything is working, do you keep showing up consistently? Do you keep showing up early? Do you keep showing up ready to work? Do you still have the same edge? Can you find and rekindle the fire that drove you when you had to be mentally tough because you were losing? Can you find that fire when you're winning? And that's actually very hard to do. This is one of the reasons why when someone reaches a certain level of success, achievement, and especially when it is noted, they are noted for their success in their environment, meaning amongst the people who care about that thing. When you get noted for your success, one of the hardest things to do is to maintain that success, to stay as successful as you were, and to keep showing up the way that you were before, simply because now that you have the success, now that you gotten the trophy, now that you got the medal, now that you got the recognition, now you have the name, you have all those things. Well, what's your motivation? Why are you getting out of bed the next day? You already won. Why are you getting out of bed on Tuesday if you already won on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday? What's going to get you out of bed on Tuesday? That's a very difficult thing to do because as human beings, we are wired for noticing anything that could lead to our loss, to failure, or to any form of defeat, injury, or harm. We are hardwired to notice these things because that's part of our self-preservation internal mechanism. Therefore, when we have not yet won, not yet succeeded, and we are not being looked at as the winners, basically looks like we may end up losing, especially for those of you who are competitive and have a lot of drive. When you're in that position, it's very easy to find your motivation, if you will, your drive, your discipline, your determination to go and try because you have yet to be recognized as a success. But once you get recognized as a success and everyone says this person is successful, this person is very good, this person is great at what they do. Once everybody knows that and has agreed to it about you, what is going to drive you now? Because now you can't use them. You can't use their indifference. You can't use their negativity. You can't use their hating. You can't use their ridicule because they're not doing any of that anymore. You won. So now everybody's telling you that you're great. Everyone's shaking your hand. Everyone wants to take a picture with you. Everyone is telling you how amazing you are, and you had the trophy and the success to prove it. What's going to get you to show up just as solidly, just as strongly, and just as focused as you were when you were losing, now that you're winning? This is why you often don't see repeat champions in sports. You don't see repeat champions a lot of times in sports because the person who won has now satisfied their desire to be a winner. All right, why be a winner again? It's not an easy question to answer, and that's the reason why most people don't answer it. At least they don't answer it sufficiently. It's the reason why many people are unable to repeat their success. Once they get the first success, they can't come back for the second one because everybody who they beat is still driven to be a winner, and you already became a winner. You lose just a little bit of your drive at the professional level, then the other professionals out there are going to overtake you simply because you winning was not because you are just so much more talented than everyone else. You may be more talented, but you're not that much more talented. You're not that much more talented that you can just show up with no drive, no determination, no focus, and still beat everybody at the pro level. Maybe at the amateur level you can. At the pro level you cannot. I'll use an example like sports. In sports, if you are that much more talented than everybody else and you play basketball or you play football or you play baseball, you can dominate even if you're not that locked in, motivated, driven, etc., simply because you're just better than everybody else. A lot of your opponents are just not very good. They're not very talented. That same athlete, you go to the major leagues of baseball or to the NFL or the NBA, and you have that talent. Well, everybody around you has talent too. And the talent gap between you and the person next to you is not nearly as big as it was in high school, which means if you don't show up mentally locked in and the person next to you who's a little bit less talented than you is mentally locked in, that person will kick your ass at the pro level. This is the difference. And this is why it's very difficult for some of you may see, if you follow pro sports, you'll see some pro athletes who seemingly have a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and they should have amazing careers, but they really don't. Why? Because on some level, they are satisfied by what they have. They may be satisfied by the fact that they've been recognized, maybe satisfied with the money. Maybe they're satisfied because they put up some good stats last season. Maybe they're satisfied because they got a lot of fans telling them how great they are, despite the fact that they haven't really achieved at a super high level, at the pro level. Maybe they're satisfied because they just made it as far as they made it, and they don't need to achieve anything even once they get up there. They don't feel the need to do it. They may want to do it. They don't feel the need to do it, and because of this, they don't achieve. And when everyone has a pretty comparable level of ability and resources and potential, then the difference between one and the next is not ability. The difference is mindset. And when the mindset's not there, the body ain't gonna be there either. So don't allow yourself to get complacent. And this is not something that you just randomly decide, this mental toughness. You don't just randomly decide to pull this out of your bag of tricks every now and then when you decide that you need to use it. See, that's what a skill is. That's how you would define a skill. Every now and then you need it, you pull it out. All right, this is something that you do all the time. All right, when we talk about mental toughness, a way of being, your normal modus operandi. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is mental toughness is an identity, not a skill. Number 2, being mentally tough is not something that you practice. It's a decision. And these are different things. When you make a decision about something, you don't have to practice it because once you decide, then that's it. As we talked about in the first point, mental toughness is a way of living, is a way of existing. It is not a practice, which is something that you do every now and then, even if you did it on a scheduled routine. If you do something like playing a sport, you do yoga, you do meditation, these are all things that you practice at 8 o'clock every day. You put it on a calendar and you practice doing them. Being is separate from doing. All right, that's the reason why, again, the process is called being, doing, having. Most people understand having. Those are the outcomes. Most people understand doing. That's the effort. A lot of people don't understand being. A lot of people are unaware of being when it comes to achieving anything in your life. Note that being and doing are not the same thing. Again, that's the reason why there's being and doing. And a lot of times people conflate the two. When we're talking about being, we're not talking about actions. This is not a verb. It is a verb, but it's not a verb in the sense of doing. Doing is about actions that you take. Being is about a way of living and a way of showing up. And being mentally tough means, or it leads to you doing things that others can perceive as being tough, resilient, persistent, and otherwise impressive to the average person who, by the way, has no mental toughness whatsoever. Everybody catch what I just said. When you are mentally tough, being, it leads to you doing things that other people see, and then they say to you, oh, wow, you are mentally tough. You got cut from your high school team 3 years in a row, but you still tried out the fourth year, sat the bench the fourth year when you did finally make the team, and then you still tried to play in college. Played in college, but nobody was checking for you to play pro, and you still tried to play pro. You show a lot of mental toughness. Or Dre, you have gone through a whole bunch of things that many people would consider setbacks or definitive messages from the universe that said you should probably give up on this thing. Yet you have this resilience to where you have made yourself immune to the thoughts of failure or quitting, and you just kept going, and you made yourself into a success, despite the fact that, not the fact, but the proof, if you will, from the universe that says you probably should have quit. You seem to have a whole lot of resilience. Or someone will say, well, I remember when I was in between like 2015 and 2020, I spent a lot of time reaching out to events, trying to book myself for speaking gigs. And I booked myself for a lot of them and did a lot of them. But there's a lot I tried to book myself for that I didn't get. But I would have conversations and engagements with the decision makers who I was trying to reach out to. And I would often get compliments from these decision makers or secretaries or admins or whoever was responding to me about my behavior, because I would always follow up. I would send emails, I would call, I would send another email, I would just follow up. And I would often get credited for my tenacity. It was a word that I had used as a compliment towards me more than once. Dre, I appreciate your tenacity in following up with me, or your persistence in following up. And these things, again, these are all, people can describe your actions. They describe your actions with these words. And many people see these things as impressive. They use these words as compliments to you. And the reason they use them as compliments to you is because it's not a normal thing for someone to be like this. Most people don't have resilience or mental toughness or persistence, and they're not tenacious about going after something. And the average person having no mental toughness at all, when you are doing things that are a reflection of your mental toughness, people use these terms to give you compliments. But the terms are based in what they saw you doing, actions. But the things that you are doing are not because you said, let me be resilient today. Let me be mentally tough today. Let me be persistent today. Let me be tenacious today. That's not what you did. What you did was just what you naturally do when you are being a mentally tough person. Do you understand? When you're a mentally tough person, you do things that make people think that your whole thing is just about the doing when it's actually about the being. Most people default to what they can see with their eyes, which is the things that you do. And you should very well judge people on their actions. All right? I'm not telling you not to, but understand that the actions that a human being takes are a reflection of who they are as a person and how they see themselves. Most of your actions are a reflection of your self-identity. They're not just random things that you decided to do right there in the moment. But most people will judge you based on the actions, not based on who you are in your self-identity, because they don't know. They can't see your self-identity. And most people are not even aware of this stuff. So they wouldn't even try to think about, what's the self-identity of this person who is taking these actions? Most people never have that thought. It never occurs to them. So understanding the things that you do are rooted in who you are as a person and the way that you see yourself. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is mental toughness is an identity. It is not a skill. Point number 3. Do not outsource your toughness to motivation. Do not outsource your toughness to motivation. What does this mean? Motivation is an energy and a feeling that can come and go at different times, and it is very useful when it shows up. All right, it's basically like a speed boost or some extra fuel in your tank that you absolutely can use to move yourself further and to do so faster. I'm not knocking the concept of motivation. I used to put out these videos called Weekly Motivation. I put them out for 400 weeks in a row, and they became the foundation of what literally became this show that you're listening to right now, 3,000 plus episodes in. So I'm not knocking the concept of motivation. Motivation is like someone slamming on the gas pedal in the vehicle of you, and it makes you get everything you were going to get and do everything you're going to do. It just helps you do it faster. Great idea. Great novel thing. The challenge with motivation is that motivation is not consistent. So while that speed burst feels good when it's happening, the challenge is the speed burst doesn't keep happening over and over again. And since motivation is not consistent, therefore it cannot be counted on for continual results nor for continual performance, because motivation does not show up every day, nor does it show up on schedule. Motivation shows up when it shows up. Sometimes you will pull up a YouTube video that motivates and excites you, and it gives you some extra energy to go to the gym with in the morning. Sometimes you'll try to find a video to give you some extra motivation and excitement, and you can't find one, and you watch the one you watched before and it doesn't have the same effect because you watched it 30 times already. Now you don't have the motivation. Question: will you still go to the gym? What's your workout going to be like when you get there? See, the thing about motivation is that motivation can't be counted on for continually showing up. Motivation shows up when it shows up. So be happy that you have it when it gets there, but if it doesn't show up, you still got to do your job. This is how it works. That's the challenge with motivation. And this is the reason why anyone out there, including you, listener, who is looking for or dependent on some form of motivation to do your job, you are already in a precarious position because the motivation may not come. Now what? What you going to do now? If you need continuous results, motivation can't be the foundation of how you get there. All right. Motivation is not something that you are as a person either. All right. There's not a person is just motivated. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a motivated person as a whole. Now you can be motivated in the moment. I can be motivated in the moment to run around the block, but I, Dre, as a human being, am not a motivated person, but I can be a disciplined person. I can be a mentally tough person. I can be a confident person. I cannot be a motivated person. Motivation is something that happens. It's episodic. That's what motivation is. There are episodes of motivations. There's not a way of being as motivated. There may be people out there, and some people will put me in this category, who are motivational in their message. Like Dre's message is motivational. It motivates me to think about these things. It motivates me to stay locked in. It motivates me to remind myself of these things that I've heard and that I know, but I am not engaging with. A person's message can be motivational, but there's no such thing as a motivated or motivational human being as a whole. Again, motivation can be temporary, episodic. Motivation falls much more into the doing category than it does the being category. Again, you can do something to make yourself motivated, but you don't do things to make yourself mentally tough. That doesn't even sound right, because who you already are is the mental toughness. Motivation can help, but it doesn't change you. I don't do things to make myself disciplined. I am a disciplined person. So the things that I do cause people to say, hey, you're a very disciplined person. I told you this story a few days ago. I was at a gym on, I don't remember what holiday it was, but it was a holiday. So it was very few people in the gym. But one of the women who was running the facility, she knew who I was and she saw me and she said, man, you're very disciplined because you're here on this day when nobody else is here. And again, it was the action that caused her to say it, but it was my being that caused me to do it. You follow what I'm saying here? I do things that people see and then they say he's a disciplined person because he did that. But it's who I am as a person that caused me to do it. You wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for the being. The doing came after. That said, let's recap today's class, which is mental toughness is an identity, is not a skill. As I define, is your willingness to show up, keep doing the work, keep putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is late to the party. Then I'm helping you understand that mental toughness is something that is codified into your DNA. It is part of your being. It is not something that you do. Number one, skills are what you do. Identity is who you are. When you have a certain identity, you will do things that develop certain skills that allow you to take actions that lead to certain outcomes. Identity comes first, skills come second, outcomes come third. Many people get this equation wrong. They get this equation mixed up and they think they got to get the skill before they get the identity. And this is the reason why a lot of people end up stumbling and coming up short. Number two, being mentally tough is not something that you practice. It is a decision. And again, as we talked about in the first point, this is a way of living and existing on the planet. It is not a thing that you do. The decision, which is going to be part of your being, leads to the actions. Number two, do not outsource your toughness to motivation. Motivation is an energy and a feeling that can come and go at different times. It is useful when it shows up, but remember that motivation is episodic. It is not part of your being. It's not something that is just loaded into your psyche and part of your baseline wiring. You want something that's part of your baseline wiring that therefore you never have to think about it or remember to engage it because it's already engaged. Every time you breathe is already engaged without having to think at all. That's what you want. That's mental toughness. Speaking of something being breeded into who you are as a person, part of your baseline being, inside of Work on Your Game University, what we do is take these disciplines that we're talking about here. We have a system that we run these disciplines through. the efforts, the skills, the talents, your efforts, your skills, your talents, your potential, your abilities. We run them through our system and we turn this into dominance. We turn discipline into dominance inside of Work on Your Game University. You are next with us. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and let's get to it. Work on your game. Dre all day.